Okay, thank you. So this afternoon, I'm going to hopefully bring it all together and give you a little bit of insight into the Australian market. And I guess what I want to leave you with today is to assure you that we have a really strong strategy for success in the domestic market. We're going to talk about world-class delivery and how it's all absolutely based on strong consumer insight, which you've heard plenty of today. And we're no different for our Australian market. So when it comes to insight, to start off with, we know that beef is important to consumers when it comes to their meal choice. We are facing competitive threats from other proteins, as we always have, as you've heard already today, and in domestic markets, but in international markets, but we are so here as well in the domestic market. And the consumer is evolving. It's complex to understand, but the great thing is that we have the resources and we have the research done to really highly understand the consumer and help them, help our what we're doing to really guide and understand those triggers towards purchase to make sure that the predisposition for people to buy beef, we really leverage that when they go to purchase. So, beef. It's an important part of people's meal choices. We know that most people consider it absolutely the top of the wish list for their protein choice. It commands the lion's share of the market, $8.5 billion here in Australia alone, and 3 times the size of our nearest competitor. So, one of the things that is great about beef is that we have this fantastic predisposition in people's minds. It's an important sales driver, it's an important profit driver for our customers. It's really important that we get the combination right, that it's a great winning proposition for our retail customers, our food service customers, and it's important that we create the opportunities and the offers that will make a really relevant and important part of our customers' portfolio. But, as we know, the threats are lurking, and even though people might be thinking beef, and they might be considering beef for the meal tonight or the special occasion on the weekend, putting that meal together for the family or loved ones, we know that 1 out of 8 people, when they walk into a store, choose another protein. And that's not what we want, obviously. So we know that that has increased over time, especially the last few years. If we think about the price differential to our competitors has increased, so that's meant it's a more attractive proposition from a value proposition for some of those other proteins. But that's only half the story. If we really understand the consumer, we know that we're not fully meeting the consumer's needs of today. And when we look at consumers, we can ask them lots of questions, we can observe what they do, we can look at lots of data, and I know Nat that was here before will happily tell you all about it, and it's true. But one thing we do know for sure is that people are not always rational. We don't always follow the script. We don't always plan. We don't always think about what we're going to do down the track and execute the way we said we were going to do it. You know what? Life gets crazy for everybody. Things don't go to plan. The weather's not like it is. The kids don't get home from school on time. Work happens. And you know what? We end up making rush decisions. So what we know is that most people are deciding what they're going to have for dinner tonight in the 24 hours, and mostly on the day, and for most, in the hours leading up to that meal tonight. So this represents a great opportunity for us to influence what people are having for dinner tonight. But it also is a huge threat, and that's what we're finding, is that when people are making that decision and they're thinking beef, sometimes they're getting along the path to purchase, or they're getting to retail and going, you know what, that looks really easy to cook, or that's a good price, or you know what, that's a great meal solution for my family and that will fit my needs for tonight. And as I said, it works both ways. Sometimes you might have just had a really crap day and you just want to have a steak and a red wine, and that's okay too. And we've got to think about all those needs that come along with it as well. Now, consumers make choices about what they're going to have as a meal tonight, and we sort of go through this. Well, we sort of go through this decision process, but it's fairly subconscious. We make these trade-offs every day about how we're going to consume food. And this might not just be about what we're going to purchase in a butcher or a grocery outlet or a supermarket. but it might be just about what we're going to choose at the restaurant tonight, or what outlet we're going to choose. Do we want a budget do we want a more budget option? Do we have a lot of people to feed? Are we a bit more constrained this month? Or do we want that gourmet experience, something special? Maybe it's a special occasion. Maybe that's just what I really value in the food I eat. Do I want something hearty, comforting, something that makes me feel good on the inside, warms me up? Or am I thinking much more about my weight, my lifestyle, and you know what? I want something healthy and light. And what we see is that through the week, there is a feeling that people are looking for more healthy and light options, and that's where it's one of the areas of opportunity for us. But this is a little bit about the framework of how people make decisions. So when we ask consumers to go, let's talk about all those meals that people are cooking, all those favourites: spaghetti bolognese, steaks, beef stroganoff, and then we plot all the different meals and across the different types of protein cuts. We can see that beef cuts fit right down the middle. We straddle really well from the gourmet end and fantastic premium steaks that make your mouth water, right through to mince, which makes those family favourites like spag bowl and is on pretty much every family's repertoire through the week. So we straddle nicely through that axis, but we pretty much skew all hearty, and we have this huge space here on healthy and light, which we really don't play, and some of our competitors really play in that space really well. And what we know is that final few seconds are critical. Those needs that we have, do I want to express myself through the food I create? What are the nutritional aspects I want to do? What's the value that I need to put on a plate? How constrained am I by budget? It really matters when it all comes down to those last few critical decision-making points. There's lots of opportunities. We know that people have lots of choices. So how do we make sure that what we're doing really helps consumers make that choice in the most effective way and meets their needs? So through the research that we've done over the years and through a sort of real deep dive into consumers and their behaviour, we know that basically segmenting or classifying consumers into a number of groups, and this is a cluster analysis. So if you were to plot all the behaviours and the opinions and preferences of consumers, you essentially come out with these 6 groups. And we may straddle a number of these, and we may not fit discretely into these, but this gives us an opportunity to really focus down on what are those needs of what are the different groups of consumers. What are they wanting from beef, and how are they approaching it? What are those triggers that we can use in communication? So I won't go through them all, but if I'm a constrained aspirer, what does that mean? Well, we know a constrained aspirer is someone that loves food. They love to talk about food. They love to watch the food media, and they're very involved in it. But you know what? They might have some kids that they've got to make sure that they've got to feed. They might be constrained by budget. They might be constrained by time. They might be in busy jobs. They might have a long commute. And so they've got to make do with what they can. So these people are absolutely open to messages, but we've got to be able to sell those benefits of beef and give them that reassuring messages that say, actually, you can have this great food experience, and you know what? You can do it on a budget. You can do it in less than 20 minutes when you get home after a busy day, and it's going to be very enjoyable, and the whole family's going to enjoy it as well. So they're the sort of things that you can see that we can really apply this segmentation model. So, just to close off that section, we really understand the consumer, and we understand their most important needs, and we understand the challenge that we have with beef up against the competitive proteins. So what are we going to do? So we're going to talk a little bit about Australian Beef the Greatest, the brand. We're going to talk about our content and how that's going to reflect ease, versatility, and value. We're going to show you how we're going to be relevant in out-of-home dining, which is a really important influence on what people eat at home in the future. And we're going to talk about building and continuing to build beef's health credentials through influencing the influencers, the people that are framing up how people are looking at health and the role of food in health these days. So, Australian Beef the Greatest, this was launched last year, and this was really tapping into this idea that really Australian beef is the greatest meat on earth. And I think if anyone's walked around over the last few days, you will understand that this is an incredible, versatile protein. It really is the king of foods. It can be done so many ways and is really celebrated this week. That's what this campaign and what this brand really seeks to bring to life. We need to be consistent with this. We need to be constantly reminding people of this as people are thinking about, what am I going to eat tonight? What am I going to eat this weekend? What am I going to choose for lunch? What am I going to choose when I'm out? So we need to be really relevant at the place they consume it. So mobile, out of home, as they're walking into purchase. Our content, we know that recipes have to be simple. They have to be easy to make. They have to be ingredients that are easily at hand, and they can be done in less than 20 to 30 minutes is really our limit. But how can we tap into those trends that we see from overseas that are really coming through, definitely the food media, and being really easy? And out of home, food service, this is probably an area that we're not as well known for. You know, we're known probably more for our ads. But we have a team that is dedicated to working with food service professionals for them to know exactly how to get the most out of red meat and especially beef. We know that chefs coming through these days out of some of the commercial cookery schools are probably not getting the training they used to around red meat. So we're really trying to fill that gap so they understand, how do I put really profitable meals on my menu, and we can keep beef on menus. We're working right across the sector, from aged care to airlines to actually restaurants to QSR, so quick service restaurants. So to really make sure that Australian beef is present on the menus in interesting ways. And when it comes to health, so what we know is that people see beef as a fantastic, wholesome, healthy ingredient. But we know that it's probably some of the meals that we make with beef don't get the best rap. So earlier in the year, we partnered with the Australian Women's Rugby Sevens team. And it was interesting. We thought this is a great association with a bunch of fantastic, healthy athletes that are just sort of shining examples of health and nutrition. And we were talking with Petter Carriage, who's their nutritionist, and she talked to us about the team, and a lot of them are come to the city for the first time to train with the squad, and most of them are country girls, and they come and they're living out of home for the first time, and rents in Sydney are horribly expensive, and the first thing they do is actually cut out protein, cut out red meat. And what happens is they all become iron deficient, anemia sets in. And the first thing she says for any pretty much new player in the team is prescribes 4 red meat meals for the week, and that's what gets the best out of them. So we're going to be looking. So it's this really authentic partnership, and that's what we've got to look at, and we've got to look at how do we influence the influencers? How do we make sure that the role models for people and generations today, and the place where people are getting their information about health and nutrition is really, we're really partnering with those people. So we've got a strong plan, and it's really driven by the understanding of the consumer needs. So when it comes to the brand, we're only sort of 18 months into it, if you like, launching Australian Beef the Greatest. And we know that over time, that's going to be the consistency we need. So we'll keep doing that over time and continually investing behind Australian Beef the Greatest and delivering those. We're going to continue to ramp up investment behind health, but also winning at retail with really strong offers that really tap into that easy, everyday need that consumers have. And the last one is having the right team. So Sam Burke, our corporate chef that many of you would have seen and heard over the last few days, he's also our very talented food service business manager. Now, he was working with the Sodexo group, who have the contract for some of the big Pilbara mine sites, Rio Tinto. And we were doing an innovation masterclass with them and working on what are the right offers to have on their menu. And he developed a a meatball pocket, Australian beef meatball pocket. And just by having that on the menu, into that site, an extra 1.2 tonnes of beef every day. So that's 2 of those dump trucks in a year going into a beef just by working and investing time and getting those opportunities and turning those opportunities into profit for producers. So delivery, people, consistency, and investment in the right battlefields will be critical. So in closing, we have a strong plan built behind consumer insight, and we have the people and the consistency and the investment behind the battlefields to deliver Australian beef the greatest. Thanks.